This is the Inner Journeys, Outer Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Corey. And today, what we're going to talk about is the importance of protein. Something I think that most people don't get enough of. When I've looked up some of the statistics, the average American gets about 100 grams of protein per day. And if you're a 100-pound human being, that would be perfect. That would be enough for you to recover from workouts, to repair your body from just everyday normal damage that happens to it. But if you're not getting that, or if you're getting 100 grams of protein per day, and you weigh a lot more than that, like myself, 170, 180 pounds, that's not quite enough for us, especially if you have goals of weight loss, more specifically fat loss, or muscle gain, or you have performance goals, whether it's a race, a swim, a bike, some sort of contest, or whether it's boxing or anything like that. If you're not getting enough protein, it's going to be a detriment to your performance, to your goals. So, what is protein? Protein is made up of a chain of amino acids. Amino acids is the smallest compound that makes up protein. And you may have heard of something called branched chain amino acids. So that would be an example of three different amino acids that build up into a protein block. So protein is what is broken down into amino acids to repair cells, to repair organs, to repair skin, to repair your brain. Everything in your body requires protein. It's a building block of every single cell that we have. If you don't have adequate amount of that, first it's going to be going to repairing the body, and then it's to help other parts of the body, whether it's like muscle damage or anything like that. So the things that people notice when they are getting adequate protein, and especially the clients that I've worked with that have not been getting enough to getting enough, they've noticed that they have more energy. First off, they have less cravings. They're not hungry as often because they're more satiated from all of the protein that they've been eating. If you're eating a lot of protein or meat, more likely, you're going to be a lot more full for a longer period of time. It takes longer for protein to break down. Usually protein has a little bit of fat in it with any meat that you're having with that. So that's going to take longer to break down. You're going to feel fuller for longer with that. And I think the biggest change is a lot of people feel the more energy. And if you're feeling like you're down in energy most days, that may be something you want to look at, is how much protein you're eating in a daily basis. And then the other things that happen when you're eating enough protein and you're working out, you're going to see your body change. Most people work out because they want to see some sort of change in the body, whether it's losing fat or specifically they say losing weight. But more likely you want to lose fat and keep the muscle that you have in your body. So if you're eating enough protein, you're going to keep your muscle so you know you're losing fat only. And with weight training and lifting, with having enough protein, you're definitely going to be losing fat if you're in a caloric deficit. So you're not eating too much food to where you're gaining weight. You're underneath what your body needs calorically to lose weight, to survive. And other things that can happen when you're eating enough protein, you will see your performance improve because you have fully recovered from any other exercise that you've previously done. Your sleep's going to be better. A lot of different things are going to be better because your body has the required building blocks that it needs to repair itself, to perform better, and everything's taken care of when you're eating enough protein. So the guideline, it's been more researched in the past 5 years, optimal amount of protein would be about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So again, if I'm 180 pounds, so if I was to get anywhere from like 160 to 180 grams of protein per day, I'm meeting my requirements that I need to hit my goals, which is right now to gain muscle and performance for running. And I have what I need if I'm hitting that number. So I feel a lot of energy throughout the day. I don't feel aches and pains all the time. I'm sore from my workouts, but I'm not overly sore for a long period of time. That's another thing that can happen is if you're not eating enough protein, you're probably going to be sore for longer than you normally would if you're eating enough protein. And then you're also seeing the fruits of your labor with working out. So if you're lifting consistently and you're not really seeing results that you want to see, it's probably because you're not getting enough protein. So to get that recommended amount, so again, if I'm a 180 pound person, 160 to 180 grams is what I'm looking for each day. how do you get that amount? Like, that's a lot of protein if you're not used to eating that. If you're used to eating 80 to 100 grams per day, it's going to be a stark difference and a very big difference in how you're eating to get that amount. It might feel like a big mountain that you have to climb to get there at the beginning. So if we break that down into 3, 4, or 5 meals per day, or even 6 meals per day, how would it work out for per meal if I was, again, 180 pounds? If I'm having 3 meals per day, I'm having about 60 grams of protein in each meal. And what that would look like, that would be probably 2 things of meat about the size of my hands, of my palms. So 2 things per meal of my palm size of meat. That's a lot of meat to eat, and you're probably going to feel full just from eating that much. So most of the time when I have people eating more protein, I usually tell them to eat more meals per day. And I use meals loosely. A snack would be a meal. A protein shake would be a meal. Small things like that would be meals when you're eating enough protein and you want to hit it, your target. So that would be 3 meals per day, would be 60 grams. And I would want to hit both my palm size in the amount of meat that I'm eating. If you were going to do that in ounces, it'd be probably like 8 ounces would be about 60 grams, depending on what meat you're having. If it's beef, it's definitely going to be that. Pork's definitely going to be that. Chicken's just a little bit less than that. So you want like 8 to 10 ounces of meat per meal if you're having 3 meals. Now, if we did 4 meals, that's probably about 45 grams per meal of protein. So that's a lot more easier to manage. That'd probably be a palm and a half of protein, of meat per meal. 5 meals, we're looking at about 35 grams per meal. So that's a lot more manageable, a lot easier to hit. One protein shake's about 25 grams. And if you add like 8 ounces of milk to that, you're over your target on that with 35 grams of protein. Other ways you can do that could be like a cup of egg whites, 2 whole eggs. That'd be about 35 grams, roughly. Greek yogurt is another great source that you get protein from. I use it just about every single day. I do about a cup of Greek yogurt, and it's non-fat Greek yogurt. So I get it from Costco, and it's about 24 grams-ish of protein per cup. So I use that in smoothies every day. And then I have Fairlife milk on top of that because it has just a little bit extra protein as well from that. So that's one way I start my day out with a lot of protein, is with a smoothie with Greek yogurt, Fairlife, and then berries, spinach, bananas, things like that to make it taste better as well. And then if you were to do 6 meals, quote unquote meals per day, we're only looking at like just under 30 grams of protein per meal. So the more meals you have, the more you spread it out during the day, the easier it makes it to get your required amount of protein per day. So looking at it that way makes it a lot easier. So listing off like the different proteins that you could have, the different meats. Beef usually is 20 to 28 grams, depending on if you're having ground beef or a steak, per 4 ounces. So all of these I'm going to list off as per 4 ounces. So that'd probably be just under, well, for me, that's probably, my hand size is probably 4 ounces. So my palm size with my body structure is probably 4 ounces. So beef, 20 to 28 grams, depending on, again, if it's ground or steak. Pork is going to be a little bit more, 23 to 30 grams. And that's like a pork chop, tenderloin, things like that. Ribs is probably going to be a little bit less because it's a little fattier meat as well. Chicken is about 24 grams per 4 ounces. Turkey, 20 grams per ounces. Or per 4 ounces, somewhere around that. Salmon is also 24 grams per 4 ounces of meat. And then we also have like wild game like venison or elk. Those are around the same, about 24 to 26 grams per 4 ounces of meat with that. So having that, knowing that those numbers, 4 ounces is probably going to get you closer to 6 meals per day. If you're not going to do 6 meals per day, you're going to have to either double that up or go to 6 ounces or go to 10 ounces if you're really only having 3 meals per day or 2 meals with meat. then you're going to have to look at that a little bit more closely, having more meat with those 2 meals that you're having meat with. Most people are eating cereal for breakfast or oatmeal for breakfast. Those are not great options. Oatmeal is a better option than cereal, but it doesn't have any protein. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have any, but it's very little amount, maybe like 4 grams per serving of your oatmeal. So we want to look at higher options in protein for that, because you're starting off your day a lot better. You're going to be more full throughout the morning, so you're not going to be hungry right away mid-morning. And you're also making it easier for you to get your protein amount for the entire day if you're starting out with a higher protein meal. Other things you can do, I know there's like protein pancake mixes. Kodiak is one I've used in the past. So that'll get you more protein, not quite to the amount that you want if you're doing like 3-4 meals per day. But it's starting you off in a better spot. So if you supplement it with a shake on the side with the pancakes in the morning, that would be a way to hit your protein target for that. Other things you can do for snacks, I would say like any kind of jerky is a good snack. Protein bars you can do. Greek yogurts just for a snack is a good one. Cheese and meat together would be a good protein option. Cheese and dairy have a lot of protein in it. So your milk, your cheese, your cottage cheese would be also a really good option for you, as well as you're getting to your more and more amounts of protein. So whenever I'm building a meal or I'm meal prepping on the weekends, what I'm thinking about first is what protein I'm going to have for the week, whether it's pork, whether it's chicken, whether it's beef. I'm trying to build my meal first with protein, because that way I know I'm hitting the amount of protein I want for the week, because I am focused on that in each meal that I'm having. So if I'm meal prepping, this week I'm doing pork chops. So I'm having about 6 to 8 ounces of pork chops in my meal, and then I'll build on top of that, whether some sort of carb. I try to do rice or potatoes, sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, mashed or roasted with that, and then I'll think about some sort of veggie with that. If I'm doing rice, an easy way to add more protein into that is with bone broth. So I'll use a chicken bone broth, a little bit of collagen in that chicken bone broth from the bones. So that's also another benefit to it. But there's usually per serving in chicken broth is about 9 grams of protein per serving. So may only get like 2 servings across 4 or 5 meals, but that's just adding towards the total amount of protein that I'm getting for that. And then I'll think about some sort of veggie in that meal as well. So whether it's like onions, garlic, maybe I'll do broccoli every once in a while, or asparagus, or Brussels sprouts. Those have some protein in it. Vegetables have minimal, 2 to 4 grams over your whole meal, whether it's like a cup or 2 cups of any of those veggies. That'll have some protein in it, but it's not going to be a big part of the meal. So that's why you always want to start with some sort of meat with that. Other things that you may not think have protein are like beans. So like chickpeas, black beans, pinto beans, those have protein in it. So there's a good amount of that per serving. So I think in black beans, it's probably like 7 grams per serving, which isn't bad. So if that's adding up to your total, making it a lot easier for you to maybe not eat quite as much meat, because it gets you so full so fast you don't eat the rest of your meal. So just adding these other things in, that can help you bring the whole meal up in the amount of protein that you're having with that. So making sure every time you're thinking about a meal that you're making for yourself, or you're going out and buying, that how much protein is in it, how much meat is in that meal when you're buying it. Is it a palm's worth of protein? Is it smaller than that? If it's smaller than that, you're going to want to supplement with something on the side, whether it's a protein shake, which is more prevalent nowadays. Whether there's Premier shakes, there's Fairlife protein shakes, where there's like 30 grams of protein per serving in that, and it's just one small drink. Very easy to get a quick amount of protein in there. So that's things that me and my colleagues do a lot, is protein shakes when we need to get more protein in during the day. A lot of them are easy, already ready-made. You don't have to shake them up. You don't have to deal with powders and mixing things up. So that way it makes it easier and more convenient for you to quickly get a dose of protein. So again, when you're thinking about protein, think about how many meals you're going to get your amount in, and meals as loosely, whether it's snacks count as meals, protein shakes would count as meals, but trying to think about your day, how many times you're going to eat during the day, whether it's 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 meals per day, and making sure that you're getting enough protein during the day. You probably have a bigger dinner. Most people do. So take into account of that. Dinner's probably going to have the most protein in it. Typical American diet would. And then based off that, fill the rest of your day in. Am I going to have a snack in between lunch and dinner? Am I going to have 6 ounces of protein or meat in my lunch? Am I having breakfast? What kind of breakfast am I having? Oatmeal or anything like that? I need to supplement something on the side with that. So there's a protein shake, a protein bar, adding Greek yogurt into the day, having cottage cheese with my oatmeal, something like that, to where you're really not nailing down how much protein you're having in your day. Because if you can spread it out, it makes it a lot easier to hit your targets. So it's just really important for any type of body composition change. So when you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to gain muscle, you're trying to go for any performance goals or anything like that, or you just want to feel better during your day, if you're hitting your protein targets, you're going to feel more energetic. And if you're hitting your protein targets, you're definitely going to be hitting your goals that you have for your body. So whether you want to gain muscle or lose fat, keep your muscle, those things that we just talked about here is what's going to make the biggest difference. This has been the Inner Journeys, Outer Adventures podcast. We'll see you next time.